God, I think the most courageous prayer we can really pray is to pray that your will would be done, not ours, and to invite your kingdom to come into our lives, and to those around us. So we just pray the words that your Son gave us, and pray them wholeheartedly over all of the circumstances in our lives, that your will would be done, knowing that your will is bigger and better and produces resurrections and glory that we could have never anticipated if we would just surrender. So together,
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
The prayer that I pray a lot when I'm in Mass is that the graces that we receive from the sacraments, that they be given to those people who need them, and that we come to heaven with our hands empty. That those graces have been given out to the people who are suffering, the people who are lonely, the people who are depressed. Anybody who needs those graces, give those graces to those people.
I pray that this, that this session reaches the hearts of men who are considering making, starting their journey. And giving up to self, dying to self, and just allowing Him to penetrate their hearts, our hearts, to serve Him and surrender, just a little bit, open that door and surrender a little bit and let Him work.
At all times, that gift, that sacrament that marriage represents, is such a great gift. So this is a prayer and thanks for the institution and the sacrament of marriage.
And I'd like to pray for the understanding that brokenness and the pieces can be put back together even better through your relationship with our Almighty Father in heaven.
I'd like to echo Joel's thanksgiving for the many blessings that we have received, and also for the crosses that we have received, as they are efficacious. If we are given the grace, but if we say yes to the grace to embrace them.
Lord God, you're a good God. Your purposes are greater than anything we can imagine. Your word promises that no eye has seen, no ear has heard what you have in store for those who love you.
And I think as you get older, you realize you don't have control over anything. And that in and of itself is a very freeing thing. But underneath control is pride. And underneath pride is fear. And the antidote for fear is trust.
Got a scholarship to go to Iona College, which is a Catholic college. So I tell people, I got 8 years of grammar school, Catholicism. I got 4 years of Catholic high school education. And then I went for 4 more years to Iona College for 4 more years of a Catholic college. And I came out probably the worst sinner in the world, right? The worst sinner in the world. After all of those years of investment, I came out with, oh boy, what happened here? I got really, really consumed with me being the greatest thing on the face of the earth. Well, one of the things that was part of my pivot, right, and I've shared this with a lot of men, is I never had this experience of eternal, right? Like forever. My whole existence and growing up was this life. This is it, right? High school, girls, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? Like the here and now, the world as it is. And then you die. That's it. I never thought about, okay, this is just a sliver. This is a gateway to forever. And when I step back and open my eyes to, is this all there is? This is it? Like, I'm look to my left, I look to my right, I look at my house, I look at my car, and I'm like, this is it? This is what I have, this is it. When this is gone, that's it? And when I came to the realization that it's not, that's when I became very intentional and purposeful in saying, I'm here right now for a reason. And honestly, Dan, I'm still trying to figure out what that reason is. I know there is one. And I know I have a plan, that God has a plan for me. Some days it's clear in my mind, and some days it's really foggy. But I stay on the vine, right? I stay connected. And that commitment that I made that day, that's that Thursday morning, February 8th, I remember the day, I've stayed true to it. I've just tried to stay on the vine. I've tried to stay intentional, and I work at my faith, where I am just so grateful that that He's given me an opportunity to accept His invitation.
Well, praise God. I'm so glad to get to hang out with you guys and to kind of get an inside look at your men's prayer group. I've been a part of the men's prayer group for, oh my goodness, 15 years now, the same men. And so I know what that experience is like, but I don't know your men's prayer group except from what you guys have told me. And so I'm really excited to hear about what you're doing and what God is doing in your community. And I'll have an opportunity to chat with you guys one-on-one at different times. But does anybody have... anybody want to share, what was it like, what got you to your first men's prayer group? What was that trigger that made you cross that threshold, step into this church or the church hall downstairs and show up? What made you show up? Anybody want to share?
This guy right here, Barry. And we heard Barry talk, and it was coming up on Lent, and you were doing the Theology of the Body series. And I decided to show up for the first Theology of the Body series. And we did the Theology of the Body series, and I just kept going. That's what got me hooked. But that was it. I mean, it was really hearing about the group through religious ed.
How did it compare to what you expected it to be? I'm sure you walked in with expectations.
I didn't walk in with any expectations. I had never been in a group with 50, holy men. So I was sort of surprised by that. So I was hooked.
Anybody else? What was the thing that got you through the door the first time for the men's prayer group?
Mine was definitely a personal invitation also. It was actually also from Barry. But I remember very distinctly that I didn't think I needed it. Like I was like, I'll go, see what this is about. I knew a couple guys that were in it. At the time it was small. It was meeting in your family room. And you called me up one day and invited me. And I'm like, I'll go. And if I'm really kind of honest, this is where I was probably 18 years ago when I started with you, is that I'm like, maybe I'll meet some people, maybe there'll be some connections, unfortunately, that's kind of what I was like, maybe I'll have some networking situations. And so I went the first time, and it wasn't, to your question about expectation, it wasn't at all what I thought it was going to be. I mean, I was pretty newly Catholic, so we prayed intentions, we did the rosary, which I didn't know, the prayers for the rosary, I didn't know anything about it. And then we discussed the gospel. It's kind of was the format. It really hasn't changed that much for all those years. But it was a personal invitation that got me to come, and we've talked about it a couple of times where it's that personal invitation that gets you to come to things like this, and then it's kind of that realization that Christ is in the room with you that kind of keeps you coming, keeps you coming back, and that community that was around those people. So it was, it's never, I mean this with no disrespect, it's never been a network, ever. But there is a network of it's not a business network, but it's a Christian Catholic faith-based network, which, by the way, is much more important than any business network you can be a part of.
Anybody else want to look at it?
Mine was also an invitation from a person that was in the group already. And at the time, and I've said this openly in many of the groups since this, that you would never have caught Jerry Corcoran on a Saturday morning. Number one, probably because I was still trying to wipe off some cobwebs from the night before. But it was an invitation from somebody who had this similar struggles and brokenness that I had. And that invitation, when he made it to me, was kind of like, well, if you're going, I'll give it a run. I'll give it a try. And 7 years later, I'm still going, showing up on Saturday mornings, and trying to just be a little better version of myself. And it was from a personal invitation, that was really powerful.
I got really consumed with me being the greatest thing on the face of the earth. And it was great, and I loved the adulation and recognition, and then it transferred into work. And then I went into work and became, a high performer, a good employee, got a lot of accolades, and Jerry was great again, right? So this theme as I journeyed through life was, man, Jerry's great. Like, Jerry is the center of the universe, man. Like, everything revolves around him. And that wound up being very enjoyable for a time, but it created a broken Jerry. It created a broken Jerry. I tried to solve a lot of problems that probably I didn't need to solve. Took a lot of weight of the world on myself as a provider, as a family person, and became, because I was great and everything was about the benefit of Almighty Jerry, whatever I needed to alleviate stress and anxiety and the ways of the world, I did. And so I became a horrible addict. But it was okay because I was a good provider, and the world was my oyster, and I was great, and that was it. And I was the center of the universe, and whatever elixir I needed to provide myself to get me through to another day was deserving, and it was the way to tomorrow. But it was for the almighty grace of God, of Jerry, not anybody else. The transition lasted well longer than it really should have because, again, I'll just go back to the glory of Jerry. So when, if I was going to transition to a better version of myself, I would just, stop all the craziness, right? All the partying and all of the drinking and drugs and everything like that. So I would just stop that. And maybe that would last maybe, 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. And, I'm just a huge believer in the patience of God, like beyond you can even imagine. And he connected me with my wife back when we were 16 years old, knowing what was going to happen when I was 48. There came a point in time where my wonderful guardian angel, I call her, because she endured a lot of the addiction, right? Like she had to endure that, and gave her every opportunity to run for the hills. And our good Lord said, no, you stick with this guy because he's going to need a guardian angel. And at 48, I I took things to another level where she said, I'm going to tap out, I'm tapping out. And that was probably a ground zero that I can't even explain. I can't even tell you how it rocked my world. And I can remember the day, Dan, and I don't know why. Still to this day, I don't know why. Because during that whole journey, right, like, okay, if I went to Mass on Sunday, I went to Mass on Sunday. If I didn't, it was probably because I was hungover and I couldn't even, get out of bed. And so I didn't think I was a bad person. I had 3 kids. I was providing for them. I was, had a house over the head. I had a good job, but I was broken, right? I was just totally broken. And this was literally the straw to break the camel's back. And I can remember the day, and I remember, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. I just got handed an ultimatum. And I know how it's gone in the past. And the ultimatum was, it maybe lasted 6 months, maybe a year, and then right back to debauchery, right? So this was going to be a pivot that was either going to be, okay, then let's just part ways and I'll go my merry way, or I gotta find some other route. And I can remember the day, again, Dan, I don't know why, I went to church. I went to Mass. I was like, where am I gonna go at 8 o'clock in the morning here? Where else am I gonna go? I mean, I don't know what to do. I really have no idea what to do. And I remember going into the church and just sat there by myself, and I was like, I don't know what to do. That's it. I don't know what to do. And I walked out of there knowing that that was going to be the last day that I took a drink. It was a complete and utter surrender. And all I knew is that I did not want to lose the most special person that he gifted me. And that was more powerful than the addiction, right? So I had that was far more powerful. And, I can remember feeling, walking out, like, if you hang with me, everything will be okay. That's how I felt when I walked out. I didn't know what that meant, but I just knew if I stayed connected, which I did not do in the past, I probably failed 25 times. 25 times in 30 years. Maybe more, 35 years. It's failed maybe more than that. I can't even count them. Just imagine it's a lot, all right? Failed miserably. And then would try it again, and then would try it again, and then would try it again. Failed miserably. No matter what meeting I went to, no matter how long you wanted to say. And would kid myself that perhaps this really isn't that big of a problem because I can fix it temporarily and then break it again, right? I mean, it's pretty easy. Fix it and break it, fix it and break it. And that got very weary to my guardian angel, very weary. She did not deserve that version of me. And so when I walked out of that church that day, and it wasn't even a Mass, I just sat down and I was like, I don't know what to do. Here I am, I have no idea what to do. And I just remember walking out saying, if I stay connected in some way, shape, or form, everything will be okay. And I went back to my house, I wrote on the calendar, day 1, and I never looked back. It clearly is not, a St. Augustine or any of the great saints' journey. It was more my commitment to somebody bigger than me that was needed for me to stay straight, to stay as the best version of myself. The one ingredient that was totally absent for the 35 to 25 failures, right? Glimmers of hope, but not sustainable hope, was my faith. So what my journey began is a reprioritization, right? So where it was Jerry, job, family, and faith. Faith started to kind of climb up the ladder. You know, first, then it got to third place. Then you know, a couple of years later, it got to second place. And then it kind of got to first place. And it didn't just all of a sudden get to first place, you know? So it was a journey, but it was an ingredient that clearly in my mind now says, when priorities are out of whack, you're out of whack, right? When priority, and I was a Jerry, job, get to the family, missed plenty of baseball games, missed plenty of lacrosse games, plenty of swim meets, missed them because of the glory of Jerry, and that was really a brokenness that now I look back and say, wow, how much different it could have been, but I have no regrets about it because it is what it is. I couldn't get to the, you know, you can't get to the resurrection without the crucifixion. So I couldn't get to where I am today without going through that brokenness. My sorrow is that I dragged 3 kids and a wife who didn't need to go through that mud with me. There's so many things that I try to work at, right? And I look at faith, my faith today, as something that I ignored, right? And I ignored it. When it was convenient, maybe I paid a little bit of attention. I went to Mass on Easter and Christmas, and I wasn't a bad Catholic, right? But I didn't live my faith, right? I didn't make it part of my everyday activity. And because I didn't do that, right, it was easy for me to be number one. And so today I try to just work at my faith. I ignored it and it went away, right? It just was non-existent. When I paid attention to it, it blossomed, and it was me accepting the invitation, right? It was me accepting the invitation. And so I pray in the morning, I pray during the day, I attend, meetings with the men's group here at St. Andrew's on every other Saturday. I'm part of a small faith group. I lecture, 2 times a month. I try to do some good work for the homeless, right? And they're just small little pieces of my faith journey. And it works for me, right? It may not work for everybody else, but I will tell you that if you don't work at it some way, whether it's through prayer or daily mass or doing some corporal works, you'll probably fade away in your faith journey. So just paying attention to it has made me a much better version of myself.
And I think the one thing, the message that I take away after, not only just during on Saturdays, is that, yeah, you can look to the left and you can look to your right and see, in the mirror as well, that we're all broken. But staying on the vine and being connected with our God is comforting, right? As well as the fellowship. And we all have that in common, right? We all have that connection, that we're all broken, and a path out of that brokenness is with a relationship with God. And Joel's looking for it, Barry's looking for it, I'm looking for it, we're all looking for it together, right? And everyone's journey will be different, but the one commonality is right up there. We all have that in common. And I find such comfort in that knowing I'm not alone in my journey. got my own brokenness, as Chris says. It's different than Joel's or yours. But we all have one thing in common, that we're traveling towards the same goal.
You are a gift. You are a gift. And I never looked at myself as a gift. I looked at things given to me as a gift. And when I made that pivot of I am a gift, well, last time I checked, gifts are really good when they're given, right? They're nice to be received, but they really are very uplifting when you give a gift. And I just try to be a better gift to others than what I was. What I find comforting is, you know, sometimes you think, I'm the only one going through this. And when you're in community with other men that have similar faith journeys, you find out they're just as either messed up and confused as you are, and we're all in this together, right? And to me, that makes me feel, you know, some solace that, okay, it's not just me, right? It's not just me. So whether it's, you know, this man's story or that man's story, or this man's trouble with his daughter, or that one with his son, or this fight that they had with his, you know, sister-in-law, they're all messages and stories that I sit here and go, yeah, I've done that. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Yeah, been there, done that. And I think when I share some stories in my life, I get some nods as in, yeah, been there, done that. You know, had that happen to me. And regardless of what it is, the good Lord is smack dab in the middle of it, right? He's just right in the middle of it. He's not running away. He's not saying, hey, Jerry, you made the mess, you clean it up. He said, Jerry, you made the mess, we'll clean it up. And I'll go back to that day when I went into church and said, I give up. I quit. I'm done. I don't know. I don't have the answers anymore. I need help. And man, he just said, just hang with me, Jerry, and everything will be okay. Right? I didn't hear it with my ears, but I walked out knowing that. And so my journey of, well, if he's going to be here in the midst of this spit show that I created, and it was, Dan, it was. If he's in the middle of this saying, I'm in, Jerry, then he's got to be everywhere, man, because this was a mess. And if he's in this, then he's certainly in all of the joyful stuff and all of the happy stuff, because he just dove right in and said, just I don't have this, no, it wasn't painted out in front of me. He didn't come down and hand me, you know, a scripture and say, Jerry, this is what will happen for the next 90 days, 120 days. There was none of that. It was just, hang with me, everything will be okay.